Can't tell if that's bright or what. Hey folks, Stephen here in Ottawa, here in Westboro actually. First time I've ever filmed here. Welcome to Hope on Demand for Wednesday. Great to have you guys on. In the last video I was talking about one of my favorite ladies in the Bible. Her name is Hannah, and how her story really I think is so amazing for us to consider, because here's a lady who was broken, had no real hope, no hope of certainly getting a son, and then how the whole thing unfolded before her where that became possible. I mentioned that I would share my story, how God healed me of abuse when I was a teenager. So let's get into it. Love talking about this. Yeah, so at 16, right? At 16, I was going to church in Ottawa, a church called City Church. It happened that I met a guy there who's kind of like an older brother figure to me. Yeah, he'd teach me things like how to budget and how to time manage and all the things that I guess an older brother would teach someone. Anyway, the guy, as it turned out, was not the greatest. In fact, he was a bit of a predator, and I was victim to that. He abused me at 16. I was in high school, grade 10 at the time. I was youth leader at the church, the youth church we were going to. That's where I met Pastor Caleb, and everything got crazy after that. My grades started dropping. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on with my emotions. I didn't know why I was feeling shameful, and why I really began to resent God and leaders in my life. And then at 18 I was able to drink and party in Quebec, and so that's what I did. And I partied for about a year, pretty heavy. I didn't know what was going on. In fact, the girl I was dating at the time was like, I didn't even tell her. I told maybe my best friend, Colin. We were skating on the canal one day, and I told him then. Yeah, the big question is, how do you overcome something like that? How do you overcome, trauma? How do you overcome things that really aren't great? Things that in many cases kill people, right? There was this verse, Romans 8:28, and it was the verse that Caleb, who we had on, a few weeks ago, really drove into our hearts. Was Romans 8:28, and it is, all things work together for those who love God, those who are called according to His purposes. And what the idea there is that no matter what happens in your life, as long as your heart is before God, as long as you have Jesus living inside of you, there is a hope that things can get better. And for me, that meant that I could go through this, and I could find a way through this pain and shame and all these broken parts in my life. And that's where it started, was that one Bible verse. The thing I want you to know right now is if something like that has ever happened to you, you need to know that there can be a second part of your story, that life doesn't stop after trauma. And it might be the loss of a loved one, it might be the loss of a family member, friend, maybe you weren't abused, but life can be nuts. And in my case, I was abused, and how did I overcome that? Well, I started seeing a counselor. I told my parents. I got vulnerable with a few people in my life. I told my pastor Caleb, and he helped me along. But then one of the guests we're going to have on in the next couple of weeks, his name is Joe Mabratu. This guy really, he was my young adults pastor at the church, Dominion Outreach Center. That's where I met Bill Prankard. Joe really helped me through a lot and got me counselor. She was fantastic, really walked me through a lot of how to overcome trauma and all the rest. But the main thing was getting into the presence of God. Like I mentioned with Hannah's story, how she got vulnerable with the Lord. She started praying. Prayer for me really was one of the key factors. And again, praying is just saying, God, come into my life. And that's what I did. It changed me. Allowing that love that God has for us to come into the broken parts of my life. I mean, it really put all those pieces back together. At 19, I forgave the man who abused me. I met Becky, my wife, in that year. That's where everything changed. It was in that year. So there is hope for our lives, man, especially the broken parts. Right. One of the things that Jesus came to do was to heal the brokenhearted, obviously to save all of humanity, or those who would call on His name. But in the book of Isaiah, I think it's in chapter 60, it says that Jesus came to heal the brokenhearted. If you are brokenhearted, if there's something in your life that isn't right, if you were a victim to something and it left you in a real mess, folks, you need to know that there is something in Jesus for that broken part in your life. And in the same way that I was healed and I forgave the person and all the rest, it's possible for you. So what to say other than love you guys. If you need to reach out, send me a message. We can connect you with some great people. We've got counselors, you know, that we're connected with. But otherwise, love you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. Share with someone who you know needs some hope, needs some kind of boost in their day. And we'll see you in the next video. Peace.